Hi, I'm Cathy Moak with UT Austin Gear Up, and I want to talk to you today about reasonable consequences. So I was in a district in a classroom, and I heard a teacher say at least 3 times, "Don't make me write you up." And I thought about that and how that affected all of the behavior management in that classroom. So I wanted to share with you today consequences and how they should really work and what the theories should be behind them. So before we get into consequences, we have to know the 2 wins. So the 2 wins are every child gets every opportunity to learn, and you have a relationship with every child. Every decision you make in behavior management has to center on these 2 things. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about consequences. So when I go into classrooms, it's very common to see consequences posted on the wall. And the 3 most common consequences I see are this: verbal warning, phone call to parents, and referral. And I call these nominal consequences because they're really just consequences in name only for the most part. So the first consequence is actually not a consequence. It's a warning. I believe in warnings. I think we should always offer warnings first, but it's not a consequence. The second consequence has several problems. It is a consequence, but it could be different for every student. So if you call a parent, you basically are letting the parent manage the classroom, and it's very dependent on how the parent feels about behavior management. So even though it is a consequence, it could be very different for some kids than it is for others. Also, when you call a parent and give them the sequence of things that's happened. So your first consequence is verbal warning. So if a student is speaking without permission, you would give them a verbal warning. Then let's say the student is tapping their pencil on the desk and it's distracting all the other students. A reasonable teacher would not call a parent and tell them, your student was tapping on the desk and spoke without permission. That would hurt not only your relationship with the student, but it would hurt your relationship with the parent. And they would think, for lack of a better word, you're ridiculous to do that. So it's become a problem. So when this happens, the student begins to realize you're not actually going to call the parent unless it's very serious. So now we have opened ourselves up to no expectancy at all for behavior management unless it's very serious. So you can no longer manage the small things that happen in your class. You can give a verbal warning, but are you going to give a phone call to parents? And that is highly unlikely unless it's ongoing behavior or unless it's serious behavior. So now the student has no motivation to follow the rules. And the process is becoming subjective rather than objective. So remember from our video about rules and why they work, it's because they become objective. But for them to be objective, there has to be motivation. We have to have value and expectancy. There has to be consequences behind them. So at this point, the teacher is deciding the severity of the rule. Students think they can negotiate with the teacher because there's too much subjectivity in applying the consequences. So let's say that you actually do give verbal warning and you call the parent. Then you decide you're going to write a referral. This is even worse. So you've corrected a student, given them a verbal warning for speaking without permission. They're tapping on their pencils, so you call their parents, and then they get up out of their desk with no permission. So you write a referral. This is your own rules. These are the rules that you've given yourself regarding your classroom. And now you've written a referral for absolutely, minuscule behavior problems. So the teacher gets the referral, writes it. The administrator gets the referral. We send the kid out of the office. We've lost every opportunity to learn, and we've lost our relationship with the kid. The referral gets to the administrator. The administrator looks at the referral and says, you just wrote a referral for a student getting out of their desk, and they put it in the stack to be attended to later. So there's no immediate consequence for the behavior. So even though you've done the most extreme thing you can do to correct behavior, it actually is not going to be applied because administrators are going to triage the referrals that come in. And you've already written 15 that week because you're following your consequences, and the administrator has to triage because they don't have time to attend to every referral. So it's become a big problem because now teachers are upset because administrators are not doing anything with their referrals. I hear that very often. When I write a referral, they don't do anything. And the reason they don't do anything is because they have 100 referrals and they're trying to sort through them and triage them and attend to the most serious referrals first. So administrators are frustrated. Teachers are writing referrals for small behaviors. Teachers are frustrated that administrators are not attending to their referrals. And they're all victims of these nominal consequences. It's all part of the function of this system, and it's all fixable. So we have to solve this problem. The easiest way to solve this problem is to have gradual consequences. So we're going to go through correcting behavior, but some of the consequences that we know work are these. Number one is time owed. It's the most effective means of consequence, and it's the easiest one to do. It has the least impact on instruction. You get to keep the 2 wins. You get to have a relationship with every kid, and they get every opportunity to learn. So do this. Time owed is 15 seconds after class. So they get a verbal warning. Then their first consequence is time owed after class. We can do 15 seconds. Then on their next consequence, they could get 30 seconds. You don't ever want to go over that because you don't want them to be late for their next class. And sometimes if you have very short passing periods, this is not even an option at all. You really have to talk to your administrator. Another one I like is restitution, which could be a letter of apology depending on what the infraction is. Loss of privilege sent to another class, detention after school or lunch are really good second and third consequences before you actually would write a referral. They're very effective. So you might have to get together with the other teachers in your hallway to help run lunch detention. You might need to get with the administrators, or you may already have that as an option. And if you do, that's outstanding. So think about your nominal consequences. Think about reasonable consequences and how you're going to set all this up so it works within the move equation. They have to have expectancy and value. And as soon as we get into nominal consequences, we take expectancy away, and that's not good.